All right, we are back. Another episode 12 of You're Wrong, Here's Why. And I'm very, very excited to talk about these topics. We went on a little hiatus while we were kind of getting everything ready and kind of figuring out everything, but we're back. And I'm very excited for my guests too. So let's start by going to Sharronda Williams. Pay or wait, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. Of course, we got a chance to talk last at Sundance Film Festival, and if we would have known that was the last time we were going to be on carpets and out and about, like I would have done so much more. I
Right?
had no idea. I would have ate more shrimp. I would have had more alcohol on Netflix and other people's expenses, but that was not to be in the cards. On the other side here, we have Gig Patta. Sir, welcome. And I want to say, one of the things we always get a chance to see each other at is the San Diego Comic-Con,
That's
which is
right.
one of my biggest cornerstones of the things I love in life. And the fact that they did a digital one, which just makes me sad all over inside. I know that it was kind of a success/failure depending on who you listen to. But to me, it was a failure because I couldn't be there. I couldn't have my own room. I couldn't do the interviews and things I love. Of course, he is with LRM Online, which is Latino Review. So welcome to you, sir. And how was your day?
So far, so good. Keeping busy. Surprisingly, getting more interviews than ever, just all because of Zoom.
Right, right. And I know, Sharronda, you just had, you've been on a couple junkets recently as well.
Yeah.
So I know that everyone is getting a lot of stuff. I did Bill and Ted recently, as well as a bunch of TV stuff. I just got done doing some other stuff for a movie called Rogue. So there's a lot of stuff out there. Of course, it's just not the big title names we want. Tenant is currently tentative. And then we have, Unhinged coming, but that's been pushed back 18 different times, as well as a couple other things too. So it's a very weird world right now. And that's actually one of the things that I want to bring up because this is going to be part of our news cycle here. And the news is this. Is it time to go back to theaters? Theaters are reopening. And this is actually something where I'm actually happy to have Gig here, not because you had it, of course, but you did go through COVID yourself. So you have kind of understanding on this. Someone who has lived through it and known the hardships of it, in your mind, in your heart, do you feel it's time for theaters to reopen?
Well, I want to point out that I'm one of the first people to actually got COVID. I got it mid-March, and funniest thing is it is more likely I got it from a carpet or a press junket, and I was hospitalized for about 6 days. So it took me a few weeks to actually recover. Now, my impressions about the theaters opening is a little bit mixed, and that's just because I do miss going back to the theaters. I do miss actually, spending my Thursday and Friday night or Saturday nights watching it. But however, it's just one of those things where I don't know how long we could actually lock up, the people who are well, just to protect the sick and so on. I do understand there are risks. I am actually considered as a high risk person, but however, the big issue is that we don't know how long that our lives are going to be like this. It's sort of like whether we could actually go out and enjoy ourselves, going to barbecues, seeing friends. I've been holed up in my place for several months now. But that being said, I do want to point out that I'm here in California, and California is not reopening their theaters. To my, not to my disappointment, but just to point out, and not to mention, I have a Regal Unlimited pass, and I'm very disappointed in Regal is because they are activating my membership, my unlimited membership starting this Friday, and they're not reopening my theaters. So that basically means I'm paying a monthly fee not to go to theaters. So it's a very, very sort of like a mixed type of feeling myself.
Well, and that does suck. I mean, are you essentially just going to cancel and pick back up later on? Do you have that option, or are you locked into something?
Well, I'm actually locked in. It's because they already took my money because it's
Oh, so you got the year pass.
yeah, and that was a tactic that Disney tried to do also, because I also have an annual pass with Disney, and they figured if they opened up Disney World, they could activate all the annual passes in California, but close down Disneyland, so that this way they could actually have revenues and income.
Oh,
But
that's too
Disney,
bad.
yeah, Disney actually backtracked, saying, okay, we don't want a lawsuit in our hands. So I'm sure Regal's going to figure out something, saying, wait a minute, it's not. You can't force us Californians to drive all the way to Vegas to watch movies, but we do have drive-in theaters to watch, and I do actually have mixed blessings about the theaters opening, but just like a critic or interviewer, everyone sends me all these screeners. So in my own way, I'm actually
I
okay.
understand. And it is a little bit of a darker place and a darker way we have to live right now because of all this. Sharronda, what do you think about it? Georgia was, of course, a state that was hit hard as well. What's your thoughts about reopening? I know Cinemark reopened last week in some places, AMC, and then Regal is next. So what's your thoughts right now?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different for Georgia because we've been open since May. So theaters have been open since May. So, Georgia has taken the approach that is business as usual for quite some time. I think that it was weird because earlier today, there was a movie I wanted to review, and I went to go look for tickets, and to see just all the people, like all the seats that have been taken up or seats that have been blocked off, it just totally just made me feel like I can't do this. I don't feel safe. There was one theater that had no one had purchased tickets. And then I just thought to myself, what happens if someone comes in? What if they're coughing? I don't know. I'm really scared about it. I'm happy for theaters to make money. I just don't think that we know enough about COVID. We don't know enough about large spaces that have, ventilation. You have people eating. I worry about the employees because it's not for them to play security guard to enforce masks, while you're in theaters. How can people eat and wear a mask at the same time? I just foresee a lot of issues happening, kind of what we saw at the beginning of the pandemic when it came to, grocery stores, or when stores started, having the mandate for everyone must wear a mask. I just worry about the staff. I worry about the patrons that are coming to the theater, and I just really want to make sure that people are safe. And also, too, to make sure that, we see with Southwest how, the airlines, they were all doing this disinfecting between every flight, and then they were kind of just like, oh, yeah, we're done. I don't want to do that anymore. And so I just worry about, I think everyone worries about the cleanliness of movie theaters because they're not the cleanest places. Let's just be honest. So I just worry about, for, theaters in my area that don't have leather seats, that don't have the nice reclining chairs, how are you really cleaning in between shifts and things like that? So I just don't necessarily feel like the plans have fully been thought out, or that they take into account for those who have a disregard for other people's health, other people's well-being, which is kind of why we're in this entire pandemic predicament now. So it leaves me hopeful, but it leaves me very worried at the same time.
Well, and it used to be working at a movie theater was the perfect job for slackers. That's who you expected to work there. People who just could, take a ticket, rip it in half, put popcorn into a box, give you the candy out of them, and that's it. Like, it wasn't like hard math or anything. It was just kind of a fun, cool job you did during the summer. And, if I get fired, I get fired. And now we're putting safety regulations and all these other things into these kids' hands. And we're expecting them to essentially lead the way on everything we're doing. And I mean, I've seen Cinemark and AMC and all of their brands and promises and their seals of approval that's going to be about, we're going to steam everything once a day, and then they're going to be a cleanliness wipe down every 30 minutes, and we're requiring masks here and things here, and but just like anywhere else, it's all up to that one person who doesn't want to listen to any of the rules to kind of throw a huge wrench in all of that. That being said, I am sad about theaters too. I do miss them, and it's something that I hope we get back to soon. But talking to a lot of critics, we're coming to people who are asking us about award season, and they're asking us, well, would you go back to a theater to see some of the movies that might be up for awards, like Tenet and stuff like that too? And I have a lot of critics who are telling me not until there's a vaccine. I'm not leaving until then. And then, of course, these movies are not going to look great on our TVs, of course, either. Even if like Tenet, which is just a huge movie, is going to be shrunk down to that, and is that going to give the right feel to it, especially for people who don't have the right sound system and the right TV and things too. So it's very much in the air. But I definitely wanted to get both of your thoughts on this because it is questionable, but I know people who are already bought tickets. They're ready to go. I mean, AMC is selling them for 15 cents a piece for the first day. I think they're doing it. Cinemark Century Theaters is doing $5 for adults, $3 for kids, and I think Regal's also doing some lower price stuff too, as well as lowering the price of popcorn and all that stuff too. So I don't know what's to happen, but it's going to be interesting to see how we're I guess we progress through this. So
Hey, Derek, I'm gonna raise a question because the issue of a vaccine, we never had a vaccine for COVID 1 through 18 before. We have never had a vaccine. So what happens if they could never come up with a vaccine? Even if they did come up with the vaccine, like the flu vaccine, it's only temporary, and you don't even know if it completely works 100%. So so would we actually say let's shut down theaters forever?
No, I think it's really going to be about like people are looking for a way to control things. That's why in this world, especially America, loves to be able to show the way of control somehow, one way or the other, or we're doing something because we want to. Like it's a two sides of the coins when it comes to us. We're going to put everything back to the way it was. No one's going to stop us. And also, we want to say we're in full control about how this works or else. And so I think that's kind of the two dichotomies that we're kind of dealing with now. And I think there's going to be a point where people are, I mean, as you've already seen, Sturgis just had a 250,000 people bike rally. And there's other events that are happening all over. And then younger kids, of course, have already forgot about all the rules in there. I see them in groups and at parks and places as well. So I think there's going to be a point, it's just a tipping point where we can't do anything. The outbreak monkey is out and it's just part of where it's at. And I don't know from where, we're gonna draw our lines. And maybe someone's gonna have a quick answer after political season is over, but until that time, I just don't know. Like it's in the question. I mean, do you have any thoughts, Sharronda, on that?
I mean, it really comes to it's even bigger than theaters, right? It's gonna come to the point in time where everyone is just like, enough is enough. If we need to stay home for 2 months, then we're gonna stay home for 2 months, and we're gonna be done with this. Because that's the problem, right? It's not necessarily how many people are getting infected. It's the fact that we can't slow this down to even study COVID, to even understand how it really is spread. How long does it last on surfaces? What things can you actually do? What things can you actually use to prevent it? We can't get enough Lysol on the shelves. We don't have enough disinfectants or hand sanitizers that actually work at preventing the spread. It's until we can just let people do their normal jobs of studying diseases, of working on vaccines. Because even with a vaccine, there's a flu vaccine. You can still get the flu. Yeah. It doesn't protect you against all different types of flus. It only protects you for those that they've been able to put in a vaccine. But there's still new flus that happen every single year. And so it just has to be a bigger picture to when people just accept that, okay, we're going to sit down and we're just going to let this die down, give the hospitals enough time to come up with a real plan on how to handle COVID on a normal day-to-day basis, and to just help America, the world, try to get back to some sense of normalcy. But I think that's the problem with theaters. You don't know. Even we got in the emails, we have this state-of-the-art air ventilation system that's going to keep germs away. That's great, but it's going to keep COVID away. You don't know that. You can't guarantee that. So those are the things that I worry about.
Well, I don't want to get too much into this because then he starts to move into politics and other people's anger and opinion. I recently talked to Tony Todd, who's of course Candyman, and he was railing so angry about people not wearing masks, not staying in. And all I'll say is this: there has never been a time when stupid, stubborn people had so much power, and they are loving it. And it just makes me so mad. But you know what? I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to get too much into it. We'll just have to see what happens. I hope safety does outweigh. I recently in a big casino. I was in Las Vegas, and I was in a casino for a meeting, and they're taking every opportunity they can to. And I miss some of the things we can't do anymore, especially the buffets that are all closing. Vegas without a buffet just
right.
Sad.
Terrible.
Makes me sad inside. But you know what? Whatever we have to do to get to the next level of this, the next stage. So we'll figure this out, and hopefully we'll get some answers. But as we can probably tell, we're not the ones who are going to answer these questions. We're not the ones who are going to give you the 100%. Gig has some inside knowledge, of course, but outside of that, I think we're just going to have to, wait and see what happens with all this. So moving on, let's go into some of our debate topics. Our first debate is going to be remakes, and a very special remake to my heart because I love it too. And that is the remake of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I mean, this is coming back. I mean, if you can't see John Candy's face like that, like just a huge smile and the awkward, look of Steve Martin dealing with everything that comes at him, it's just amazing. But of course, now we are moving towards the idea of a remake. And, I love both these actors, but it's going to be Will Smith and Kevin Hart. So that's what we're looking at next. So what are your initial feelings on remakes of this kind, as well as which some people would call perfection? Some people would call this movie perfect in its own right, and they would ask us to create a new story, a new feeling. But also, we might get something different, modern, and all those different kinds of words they throw out there too. So let's start with you, Gig. What do you think about remaking Planes, Trains, and Automobiles?
I love the Steve Martin, John Candy film. When I was young, I watched it over and over again. But I do have to admit, with Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, it is actually dated. And the reason why studios remake things is because they're not remaking just for the sake of remaking just to make money. They're remaking it to
I don't know about that. Don't go that far.
To introduce to a new audience. And that's just because the younger generations, okay, they don't watch older movies. They don't go out and say, hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and watch Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, with John Candy and Steve Martin. The younger generations don't even know who those two great comedians are. And one of the main reasons why they do actually remake it is just to basically gather this new audience. Us older generations will remember it, but the problem is it's basically just to introduce it. And plus, we're also talking about introducing it to a new audience. I think it's a great idea to actually use brand new characters. They're going to introduce new jokes, new technology. And I think this is a great move by the studio, honestly.
All right, moving on to Sharronda. What's your thoughts on remaking this film?
Well, this is a cash grab, okay? Let's just be honest about this. I feel like I don't support remakes. I kind of like the movies where, how you might go somewhere with one of your younger family members and you're watching, you're like, oh, this is like that. This is totally a ripoff of this movie. And they're like, what are you talking about? I would have rather them created a new vision and kind of took like the plot synopsis of it, but tried to just do something different with it. I don't really support the whole remakes and reboots. I feel like some things, especially if they're actually good, I think they should just be left alone. I really think I'm really scared for the industry because it seems that a lot of studios have, they've looked at the success of, Disney and all of, I think I just got an email about how all of their remakes have made over $8 billion. And it's just like, well, this is easy money. Like, we just put 2 new stars in it that the younger generation likes, then let's just go ahead and just make money out of it. But I don't know. I just really don't support it. One thing I would support is they took all the terrible movies from the past and they made remakes or reboots of those. I would gladly appreciate it. At least they're trying to correct some wrongs of the past in the movie industry. But for this one, it's a classic. Just leave it alone. But I will always keep an open mind. I will always make sure I go and support and have an open mind. And hey, they might shock me. And I might have to say, you know what? You guys were right. It's a good movie. And I would totally be okay. And I would put my big woman pants on and I would definitely say it was great. I really hope it's great because when you do remakes, especially of a classic like that, you really set the bar very high. And so I would really want them to make sure that they have the right writer in place, the right director in place, because they have the talent. They have the talent in place. Kevin Hart has his own audience. Will Smith has his own audience. So hey, I hope that they do good. I never want to root for a movie to fail.
And just so you know, the writer is Aisha Carr, who's known for Brooklyn Nine-Nine. She also has a new show on Hulu called Woke that's coming up too. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be fun. I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I love the way the humor bounces off that. And the idea of Kevin Hart and Will Smith together is fantastic. Maybe it's the updated version of, Lawrence and Smith, but now it's going to be Hart and Smith. But I would have liked to have something new and different where they can make 3 of them at least, maybe then. Let's go into that. Maybe it's not Bad Boys, maybe it's something else. But I do know that recently Hart did post on, I think it was on Twitter, he said, I've been patiently waiting for the right project to team up with my brother. And this was the movie he kind of put a picture up to show that this is what he was looking forward to. And so I don't know if this is going to be something I want to watch. I will watch it, and it's probably going to be fun. I mean, the idea of all this together, and let's be honest, we know Hart is probably going to be the Johnny Candy. I mean, am I wrong in this? I mean, is there any way he's going to be Steve Martin in this? I've seen his stoic characters, and I feel like Smith is going to pull it off a little bit more as the straight man when it comes down to this too. Twitter though went like on fire. There's people who here's some big comments where just a reminder: Planes, Trains, and Automobiles might be the best John Hughes film ever made, and people should actually take time to remake, like as you said, terrible films that could have worked, not great ones that already nailed it. So that was one of the comments. Another one: please use up the original for a change. Is it that hard? He's asking Hollywood too. So, I mean, there are a lot of emotions when it comes down to this. And the first one, of course, written and produced by John Hughes. And as you know, John Hughes owned the 80s, but he got away from his teenage angst and, comedy stuff to do this film. And that was a great big leap, which I thought worked really, really well. So I don't know for sure, although, like you said, it's a time for reboots. I mean, we're about to reboot Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Like, who was one of the people who was like, what we should bring back? We should bring back all the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air stuff. And maybe they are. I know it's going to be darker and it's going to be more dramatic, and so it might be something different 100%. But I don't know if this movie is going to aim for anything, frankly, different, just updated, I guess. So
I'm going to bring up a good movie that they're actually remaking. It's the Steven Spielberg's West End Story. Is it West Side or West End Story?
West Side Story.
West Side Story. And if you watch the original movie, it's a great movie, but it is very, very dated. Mm-hmm. And I do believe something like that was a great move for them to do, because you want to introduce audiences to that story, but you don't want them to watch the original story because there's a lot of racism actually involved. And for Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, there are some jokes, there are a lot of jokes in there that is actually kind of a bit old, and we do actually need to be refreshed on some certain things for today's society. It's been, what is it, 30 years since that movie been out? I mean, I don't want to take a young kid and try to explain to them about a cell phone that's the size of a brick, that
Right.
kind of, yeah.
No, and I understand that. I guess my thought is like I've always been like when it comes to Disney or it comes to musicals that have gone to film as well, I feel like those are kind of timeless. They can be done again. Like I mean, does anybody get angry when they remake Robin Hood again or they remake Excalibur or Camelot or some of the older tales that we've seen already, because it feels like it's kind of open ground. And I do question my age as well, because I was alive when the first one did come out. So I'm like, in my lifetime, we're remaking it already, in my old man voice in my head. But I don't know necessarily if there's some things that need to be remade. I understand there's some, it's like if we, Citizen Kane. Like, does someone want to rewatch a brand new Citizen Kane? Is that something we need, or is that something that is kind of timeless in its own capsule as well? Those are really questions for a lot of other people, not me, but I have my own opinions on it too. So I feel like the movie works in its own right, 100% in any way it works out, So, I mean, they're gonna remake another John Hughes, which is Home Alone soon. So I know there's a lot of things that I have issues with that as well, because I do feel like it's I don't know, it's just kind of, as you said, money grabs.
But if
And
we remade everything, think about it. So for basically the past few years, we've been remaking everything from the past, right? So what are they going to have to remake in the future when we spent this entire time remaking all these films, from 30 years ago, some 20 years ago? Like, what are they going to have to, do in the future? Because there's nothing new. There's like no new big things that we're coming up with right now that is going to usher, 30 years from now when people are having the same argument, like, why are we remaking movies from like the 20s or the 2020s, however you want to say it. I just feel like we're not giving anything new for our generation to really set, everyone up to go create even bigger and better ideas.
Right. My argument to that is the fact that we've all watched all three new Spider-Man, Spider-Man's come up in the last, 15, 20 years. Like, not all of us have bought tickets or gone to the theater to watch Tobey Maguire, to Andrew Garfield, to Tom Holland. So even though we say this in our hearts, our checkbooks are still cashing, and they see that. They see that money coming in. So give it 10 years, we're going to have a brand new Iron Man. We can't imagine anyone better than Robert Downey Jr. But then again, 10 years later, a brand new Iron Man comes out, and oh my gosh, it's so much different. It's a different world. So I don't know. I want to believe in us as a race, but I've also seen all of us buy tickets for horrible things, and also just things we want to kind of relive in a different way, I guess. So I don't know. It's definitely up in the air for sure. So, but as overall, let's just go. So, Gig, your thought is we should remake Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, correct?
I do actually believe that, and that's just because even though you and I or us, we actually remember the movie, a lot of people don't anymore, and younger generations have not even touched the concept or that film and so on. And I think remaking it will actually bring in a fresh new audience, and hopefully people would watch the remake and revisit the old film, and I would love that to happen.
Okay. And then going to Sharronda, you are saying that it's a money grab, but what's your feeling? Like, are you for it or against it?
I mean, right now, just in general, I'm against remakes and reboots. And hey, I watch Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and it came out the year I was born. Wasn't even, well, I guess I was thought of at the time, but wasn't even here on this earth yet when it came out and I watched it. So I just want us to start making fresh and new ideas, or you can be inspired by classics like this movie and really come up with a new form of that for the new generation. I just think kind of, I don't know, it just feels weird to me. It feels like plagiarism. You just take this whole person's idea and just, oh, we're just going to put new actors in it. I don't know. It just doesn't feel right to me.
I got you. Well, overall, I'm gonna have to side with Sharronda on this one. I am not a fan of bringing this up. I do not think that this is the world we need to live in, where we are just getting so lazy. I mean, there's so many things to write about. There's so much we understand now. The future, everything's coming up, but I feel like we should be aiming for something more. I mean, we still make new books constantly. There's new stories. I read books constantly and I see new stories, and yet we are finding writers who are just copying and pasting. You know, if we can get away from the control C of society, I think we'd be so much better off. But for this one, I am going to give it to Sharronda. So I think we should not remake Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Will we watch it? Yes, we will. I mean, there's not a question there. But at the end of the day, it's not something we need so much as, you know what, something we'll I guess, stomach, I guess, or go through and kind of live. I'm hoping the trailer blows us away and we just get excited for it. But until that time, I wish they would have found another vehicle for Smith and Hart to kind of really come out of their own. And like I said, something that could have had like a sequel and a sequel and a sequel too. Both of them together is going to be fire. So I really wish we could have had something along those lines. So moving on, let's go to our main topic today. And this is one that is very interesting. The more I read into it, the more I understood the reasons why and why not of it. And so the main topic is this. Should Jared, is it Leto or Leto? Leto. Jared Leto. Should Jared Leto's Joker have got his own film? Should he have, you know, segued from Suicide Squad directly in ahead of, or maybe alongside of Joaquin Phoenix's release to have his own version, his own flavor to release out there? And that's really the question some people are asking, especially big fans of Jared's. They of course, want to see him in everything. And we have Gig saying, no, it is not. He did not deserve his own film. We have Sharronda saying yes, that he did deserve his own film, and you know, she would like to see the character kind of move forward into maybe to expand what this Joker was. So first and foremost, let's go to Sharronda, and I guess give us a little bit about your thoughts on why his Joker deserved to kind of move forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the disservice that they did to the fans, right? With the marketing, you know, when the first Suicide Squad came out, you know, we saw Joker was very heavy in the trailer, right? You know, we literally thought that this was going to be a Joker and Harley team up and he's going to be the main villain. And then we actually get into the theater and we're just like, he was here for all of 5 minutes for this whole movie that most of us had to suffer through. And we were just really confused and sad about it, or at least I was. And I personally, just because of all of the, you know, the articles that we read about how Jared really got into, you know, to prepare for this character, how he got into the mind frame of who the Joker is, his antics on set, and just the look of him, I really wanted to see him, you know, really actually be able to perform that character. And I think that either they should have had a standalone film going into the Suicide Squad if they knew that they were going to leave so much on the cutting room floor. So for me, I am going to stand up for Jared. I feel that they did him so wrong, so dirty, and the least they could have did for all the other cash grabs in the world that they put out every single year, reboot, remake, prequel, they could have gave him a film. It's going to be a little bit harder now to make that argument, you know, after seeing Joaquin play this character, but I'm just going to ignore that. That's a whole different type of Joker than what we were used to.
True enough.
I'm going to take up for Jared. I think my man got did wrong, and we need to just do right by him, please. Because look at it, because of this, he's going to be trying now.
Let's go over to Gig to get his side before we move into a little bit more. Gig, why is it one and done when it comes to Jared's Joker?
It's actually kind of funny because the Joker has been remade so many times in our lifetime, and now you guys support the remake of the Joker. But anyways, what I want to point out about Jared Leto, he is a great actor. He is a wonderful actor. He's very nice to the press. I love him as a person. The problem is we moved on. We moved on away from his Jared Leto's character in Suicide Squad. Yes, they did do a disservice. They didn't give him a chance. They basically marketed it in the way where you thought you're going to see the Joker. But the problem is there's this bad aftertaste after watching him in Suicide Squad. And then you have Joaquin Phoenix, who did the Joker, and now we just completely forget about Jared Leto as the Joker. In fact, I was talking to someone the other day because the Joker has been played with so many people. If you actually ranked all the people who played the Joker in the past, you would rank Joaquin Phoenix above Jared. You would rank Heath Ledger above Jared. Heck, some people would still rank Jack Nicholson above Jared. And I even talked to some people ranked Mark Hamill above Jared, and Mark Hamill didn't even play the Joker. He just voiced the Joker. So if you actually rank them all, Jared, sadly, his portrayal of the Joker is at the bottom. And trust me, next year when Morbius comes out, you will forget that Jared even played the Joker.
Wait, are you saying it like it's going to be that good, or you're saying it's going to be that bad that you're just going to kind of forget about Jared altogether? Because I've seen the trailer and I am not happy.
I'm just saying that Jared is going to play a major role because he's the primary role in a comic book movie. That you would forget the fact that he was even in a supporting role, and you probably, whether it's good or bad, you probably wouldn't even care whether he's going to get a full movie as a Joker.
I gotcha. Well, you know what? Of course, you go into the stories and everything else that came out about his Joker and all the things that came about. Of course, he was ignored. Another reason could have been because of the flop that Suicide Squad was. Of course, it did make money, but it was also just, hard to watch. I've tried to rewatch it recently, and every time I see certain scenes with with the Enchantress or different things like that, I just cringe. I cannot go through it anymore. And I love David's work. David Ayer is fantastic. I just feel like whatever story he got was just thrown on the wall. And like you said, it feels like a money grab too. I had high hopes for it. Luckily, we did get a Harley Quinn out of it. And she got her own movie, which I love, but was also missing some key parts for comic book lovers out there too. The one thing I will say about his Joker and the Harley Quinn, cosplayers love them. So if you go to Comic-Con, you're going to see a lot of those Harleys and a lot of those Jokers out there because it's a little more hardcore / thuggish with the tattoos everywhere kind of Joker. Now, of course, the stories were he tried to stop the Joaquin Phoenix movie is what some people say. It's, of course, been denied. He dropped his agency, CAA, to move to another one because they were handling Joaquin to let him get the Joker. So he felt betrayed on that, too. The whole idea about the whole alienation and everything else, too, might have been his fault. I don't know if you guys know about the stories about the fact that he gave gifts to all of his Suicide Squad mates in his persona. So he gave a live rat to Margot Robbie. He gave bullets to Will Smith. And a dead pig was brought in for the entire cast for rehearsal. So unless they were doing a luau that day, that is not like a cool gift to kind of bring to your workmates. Only that, there was a story about giving used condoms to castmates.
I was bring that up, but I was like, that might be too much.
Yeah, and you know what? I understand like trying to embody the character and stuff, but you know what? There's a certain point where you got to stop. Like there's no point where he was like, I should have AIDS to do Dallas Buyers Club. Like there's no point to having like diseases or giving away these horrible things or living this thing, just kind of, embody the character, but you also have to kind of take a step back and say, you know what, is this a good way to move forward? And is this actually bringing anything to it outside of the disdain that some of them probably had for him? So I don't know. I know that for this film, he got paid around $7 million for the small part that he was in, because he was in more too, I believe, and he got cut back a little bit. He got cut back a lot, I believe, actually. But he still got $7 million to be in Suicide Squad. And I don't know beyond that. I mean, I know he was probably fuming after seeing how good Joaquin Phoenix was in his role, especially with all the Oscar talk that came about because of it. I mean, I know the average age of an Oscar winner is 44 years old. So he's what, 47, 48 now? So he's probably not too happy about losing that opportunity to become that Joker. But he also helped decide his own look a little bit as well. So I don't know. So going back to both of your thoughts right now, any final thoughts to help kind of sway the decision when it comes to, yes, we should have had a Joker movie, or no? So let's go back to Sharronda first. Just a final thought on why Jared's Joker should have moved forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we've all seen that there's different characters in different parts of the universe, right? I don't think it's fair necessarily to compare what we saw from Joaquin's version of the Joker, especially because it's a entirely different tone, especially from where we were in Suicide Squad, right? It's different than what we've actually seen from most of the, the performances from Joker. And so for me, I still feel as though after watching Suicide Squad that I was the most intrigued with the relationship between Harley and Harley and Joker. And I wanted to see more of that. I think that was even lacking between the back and forth of, what we saw in the Birds of Prey movie versus what we actually see if you watch like the Harley Quinn cartoon actually comes on, the animated version of Harley Quinn as well. I just don't want us to make this decision because of Joaquin's amazing performance as Joker. I just feel as though we have to kind of separate the two. Like, we can't use that as a crutch as to why we say, no, that can't happen because we had this awesome version with Joaquin.
Right. Well, I will say I love the cartoon. The cartoon is the most
so
Harley Quinn thing I have seen. I just talked to JB Smoove recently about Frank the Plant, and I've talked to Ron Funches about King Shark too. So I mean, there is so many great things that come out of that show, and it is so dark and bloody and crass, and it's perfect for Harley Quinn. It's exactly what the movie Birds of Prey should have been. Mm-hmm. And we just had it. Like, for some reason they wanted to make their own Deadpool, right? But then it still feels like they pulled back, which is really infuriating to me. Like, they could have had a great dark kind of Deadpoolish character in the DC universe, but I feel like someone along the way just lost I guess their balls when it came down to it, to really go forward and go into it.
But isn't that why we love, the joke? Why we love Joker with Joaquin, because it's so different than what we were used to seeing, right? They really went for it. They didn't worry about what if little kids don't come to see this? What if parents get mad? Like, they really just said, this is what we want to do. This is our vision, and we're going to stick with it. We're going to go through it. Come hell or high water, that's what it's going to be. And that's why I appreciated that version of Joker so much more.
Well, it was a character study, and they were servicing the character and the story in that film, which a lot of DC comic book films aren't doing. They're servicing the idea of catching up to Marvel. That just seems to be everything they're doing, is catching up to Marvel. Let's make the team faster. Let's make this go work. I mean, outside of Wonder Woman and maybe Aquaman, like, they aren't really servicing as well. Man of Steel was fantastic for what it was too. But once they start to bring,
Aquaman was lacking. Aquaman was lacking in the whole story between Black Manta and Aquaman. If you read the comics, they have great story on why they are literally arch enemies, killing each other's dads. Like, I just feel as though DC needs to really stay in their lane because I think they have grittier, darker stories. I actually like the stories more. I love Marvel, I love DC, but I really do think that DC has some really amazing stories that they just haven't tapped into. And instead of trying to follow the mold of Marvel, just do what's been working, with your comics for so long and just follow the
Right.
storylines you already have.
I think the main issue is they don't have a Kevin Feige. They don't have somebody to overlook everything and say, no, no, yes, and pull it all together correctly. And that's one of the biggest issues I see. It was going to be Zack Snyder, but Zack Snyder has a very different vision. Someone had to pull him in a little bit. So they needed somebody over him to kind of understand the universe and pull it together well. If they could have got Jim Lee to be the guy who is like over all the comic book stuff as well as the movie stuff, he probably would have brought it together perfectly. He goes, you know what? I don't understand CG. I don't understand this, but this is the way we're going to connect stories. This is the way we're going to show characters. I mean, that's kind of something that I'm looking forward to. And I mean, we're going to have DC fandom coming up Saturday. So we're going to see a lot about what they have in store coming for the next level, the next version of everything that DC Films has to bring. So we'll definitely talk about that after, but let's go to Gig right now and let's talk about why Jared's Joker should just sputter and die, or should have just, as he did.
As I actually mentioned before, because the sun has already set on Jared's character. If they wanted Jared so badly, they would have approved his Joker version before the Joaquin Phoenix Joker version. In fact, if they wanted his version so badly, they would have put him in the Harley Quinn movie, but they don't, and they didn't. And I don't foresee in any time in the foreseeable future that they would actually do this. So there's a lot of stories and rumors that it's actually going to happen. Not to mention, you guys mentioned before, the DC universe is in flux. In fact, they're introducing a new Batman. It's possibly that we're going to get a new Superman. There's a good chance we are going to get a new Cyborg. So everything's resetting all over the place. And as far as I'm concerned, Jared's time has passed. He already moved on to Morbius. And I think it's just one of those things where we should just leave this behind. Suicide Squad was unforgettable, and then we should just basically not visit that.
All right. Well, I will say that if they replace Superman, they're messing up because there's nobody. I mean, that man is cut like steel. You move away from that Superman, I mean, I'm blown away. Why would you? The fact that you haven't been making 8 movies with him already is just a huge mistake. And then as for your Batman news, I don't know if you know, it just kind of came out recently that Ben Affleck is returning to be Batman in the new Flash film. Of course, they're going to have parallel dimensions. Michael Keaton is going to be in it as well, I believe. So there's some great callbacks there. And apparently Ben Affleck, of course, backed out of the film because of drinking, he admitted. He apparently is dry now and ready to kind of put the cowl back on for the Flash movie, so that should be fun and interesting in a lot of respects. But I do see your side of Jared's Joker, and I think all the on-screen antics didn't help either. I mean, there's a lot of things where somewhere along the way they were just like, nope, we're done. And he doesn't have the kind of clout that you would put with someone who could like pull down, no, we're going to make it happen because of this. He's not Will Smith. He's not, some of these bigger names that have the power to say how things are going to go or not at all, Samuel Jackson gets to golf, 5 days out of 7 days whenever he's on set just because he wants to, because he's Samuel Jackson, and that's what you got to pay. That's the price for the piper there. So I don't know, but I will say that, I do look forward to seeing where he lands. Morbius, I feel, was kind of just a quick grab, trying to get the taste of his own Joker out of his mouth and try to reinvent himself into something else. But anyone who's watched the trailer has some questions. I almost feel like it's worse than Blade and another vampire kind of comic book movie too. So I don't know. We'll have to see how that all shakes out. But at the end of the day on this one, I think I do have to go with the fact that Jared's done. Yeah, he didn't deserve it. His antics and everything he did just made it like the bad choice to even put money into him or whatever he was gonna do. So I'm officially done with him coming in there. And you know, I was not a fan of Birds of Prey as much as I wanted to be. I love the idea of it, but I don't know if he would have helped or even hurt it. So I'm just gonna move on and say that's in the past. We have a new Joker. We have no idea how this new Joker is going to connect up, if he's going to connect up, because like I said, he is a character and a character study, and that's what he was servicing. He was servicing Arthur Fleck way more than he was servicing the Joker. I mean, that was the character he did. I got a chance to talk to him at Toronto Film Festival for like, he was grabbing a cigarette, and I talked to him for like a minute and a half, and you could just tell like he was proud of the film he was making, not because it was comic book driven, but just because it was character driven. So I don't know. But like I said, sorry, Jared. I think we're done. We're good. You can, you know, take your LaCroix and go back to the next set you're going to. Too. Good luck on the Oscar jumps that you're aiming for as well. If not, I guess you just have to settle for Grammys, right? He still has his music career too. So that's it. All right, so moving on to the last thing really quickly is this. What are you two watching? What should people be watching right now that is making you smile, that is making you binge? Starting with Sharronda.
So right now I'm watching this show called Teenage Bounty Hunter. It's such a cheesy show, but I love it because they are so fully aware of the show that they are and they fully embrace it. I had such a great time. Another show I watched that I love, Lovecraft Country. See what I did there? Lovecraft Country. But Lovecraft Country is absolutely fantastic. What they've done with this book adaptation and how they've really made it their own throughout the series. I had the chance to watch the first 5 episodes of it. Just one of the best first episodes I've ever seen in a very, very long time. I've never been that hooked to a show just based off of the first episode. And so I would definitely tell people to watch Lovecraft Country. If they want something just out of the box, P-Valley is amazing. That's on Stars. It was actually based on like a stage play and book. And I think that's it. That's all I can think of. Everything else hasn't come out yet. So I can't talk about it.
Brother Heathcliff? What's his name? Brother, the owner of the club. What's his name?
Uncle Cliff.
What?
Uncle Clifford.
Uncle Clifford.
Yeah.
Uncle Clifford is gold. Everything about Uncle Clifford is fantastic. I had a chance to talk to them before it happened. I've been spouting P-Valley every which way too. Such a good show. So moving on to Gig. Gig, what are you watching right now?
Well, I could tell you I'm interested in watching what she's watching because I haven't seen any of those shows.
That's her job. You got to sell you.
Yeah, but the problem from my perspective, because I actually watch stuff that hasn't been out yet. So one of the things that everyone's going to look forward to is the season 2 of The Boys. And I believe that's going to be a big hit. I've seen all the episodes. I can't really say too much about it right now, but but that's a great movie. But then I also seen, horror movies that are not out yet, like Centigrade with Genesis Rodriguez, or Z, and The Owners with Maisie Williams, and those are coming out in another couple weeks. But then I also seen, B movies such as Hard Kill and The Second, with Hard Kill with Bruce Willis, Ryan Felipe in The Second, and I think I also saw Rogue with
Megan Fox.
Megan Fox.
Philip Winchester, yes.
Yeah, but but then I also going to artsy films like Fatima and I Am Woman, and there are films that I keep on hitting the pause button, like Tesla and Cutthroat City, which are both out this Friday, and I still need to finish that. But I'm all over the place right now. I'm seeing. I think I already saw a dozen films from the American Black Film Festival that it's going to go on this weekend in Miami, or excuse me, virtually all around the world. But if you're actually wanting to see something that I recommend that's actually out now, I would probably definitely recommend Umbrella Academy season 2, which is actually out now. If you have not watched it, The Watchmen on HBO is very timely, and that's actually very good. And I just recently reviewed the revisited, and I think it's a great classic movie for being coming out in 2016. Is The Train to Busan, but the sequel comes out this Friday.
Yeah.
About Peninsula. But I don't want to say too much about it, but I will say The Train to Busan was a terrific movie. And that's what I've been checking out lately.
Very cool. Well, I agree with you on The Boys. I also ate it up like it was cotton candy. Like I put one little piece in my mouth and it just all dissolved because I had to go through every episode. Those guys are fantastic. We had a fun interview with them at Comic-Con. Of course, we missed out to do another live kind of thing, but we did talk to them again. And Bill and Ted's Face the Music, I watched as well. It's a fun kind of rehash, although it was kind of a little slower than I thought it'd be. I am going to check out Lovecraft Country because that's going to be something that's going to be bigger. But it was just such a big question because all of these shows are coming out so quickly now. It feels like they're coming quicker because everyone has like this stockpile library, but they're like, we got to get it out now where we can get the numbers, we can get the love, we can get those people hooked on it before it's too late. I have been watching, and I actually do an after show for the show Yellowstone, which is on Paramount Network, which I absolutely loved. We have a lot of the guests from the cast come on with us. We talk about it. So I'm very excited about that. Recently, another show I just ate up like candy was Archer, where the new season is coming up in September, and it gets back to the original, and I'm so happy about it. No more, Inception. We're back to what it's all about. Outside of that, Teenage Bounty Hunters is great. There's a lot of good shows out there. There are just so many great things that I'm very excited about. So beyond that, I just want to thank both of you. And more importantly, I'm going to give you a quick second for you to tell people where they can find you and they can follow you as well. So Gig, go ahead. You start first.
Yeah, you could find me on Instagram and Twitter at Gig Patta. I write and conduct interviews for Latino Review Media, which is www.LRM Online, and I do conduct a lot of interviews. So check me out there.
Very cool. All right, Sharronda, you go ahead.
You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Pair Wait. I do video, movie, and television reviews on my YouTube channel, Pay or Wait, and also to have a website, payerwait.com, where I'll talk about upcoming movie news, and I also have writers who write film and television reviews as well. Oh, and
Very
also
cool.
I have a live after show for Lovecraft Country on Sundays at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time.
Very cool. Well, good luck to you on that. The after show is always interesting to kind of get your first initial reactions, and then more importantly, the fans are all go online directly after they watch the episode because they want to definitely spout their opinions, their thoughts, what's going to happen next. And this Lovecraft Country, which I understand, it makes its own path. It's not something you would automatically expect from this. So it kind of creates its own world automatically. So that's very cool. For me, you guys can find me on TV, radio, as well as online. Beyond that, I want to thank everyone for being on this show. It's always fun to have everyone on, and I hope you had a fun time too. We'll get a chance to talk about all the other debate options out there, or more movie stuff. Maybe even the best Joker, which Gig brought up as well. So we'll have to figure out which the best Joker and put that together. We recently did Star Wars worst to best, and that episode went fantastic. So we'll definitely have to break those down as well. But until then, I feel that you're wrong. Here's why episode is done. So episode 12, I want to thank everyone, and we'll see you all again very soon.